It's the mother of all talk shows with me, George Galloway, broadcasting from London town through WBAI in New York.
People of America, this is the President of the United States. You are listening to George Galloway and the mother of all talk shows. George is a Scotsman, unlike me, an Irishman. Enjoy.
Welcome to the mother of all talk shows with me, George Galloway, on WBAI every Wednesday at 9 a.m. New York time, though it's 2 p.m. in London town, where it's overcast, though a reasonably warm afternoon. It sounded fabulous in New York, as Aoife described it, but then everything Aoife says sounds fabulous to me. She's got one of the really great radio voices. And, of course, as I keep saying here, and I really, really mean it, if not for her, we wouldn't have a show at all, because she's fielding the telephone calls, which should be made to 212-209-2900. That's 212-209-2900. If you want to talk to me about any of the issues on my mind or any issue that's on your mind. Ding dong, the wicked witch is dead. Bin Laden, dead as a dodo. Though there are some people who think he never existed. There are some people who think he died a long time ago, but they don't seem to include his sons, who are appealing to the United Nations today for an inquiry into the circumstances surrounding his assassination, for that's the only way that you can credibly describe it in deference to the English language, nor to his daughter, who witnessed her father's murder, nor to his wives, who were in the house at the time, all four of them, apparently, nor the neighbors who saw the Black Hawk helicopters landing in Bin Laden's garden, heard the bangs, saw the helicopters take off. So I know that there are conspiracy theorists out there who'll tell me that Benazir Bhutto said some years ago on a television program. How that compares with the real-time, real-life experience of having witnessed the assassination of Bin Laden, I really don't know. But so bankrupt are the British and American governments and our political system that they represent that some people will not believe anything that they are told, and indeed will imagine the darkest conspiracy behind every event in the news, which, as I keep saying, is not to say that there are no conspiracies, just that not everything is a conspiracy. Now, as I put it to you last week, it would seem to me that the killing of Bin Laden's quite a good time to quit the war in Afghanistan. After all, that's why we said we were there, to break up Al-Qaeda and to kill or capture Bin Laden. Well, we now have killed Bin Laden, and according to the Pentagon themselves, there are no Al-Qaeda left in Afghanistan. Well, perhaps 20 or so. That was the latest comment from the Pentagon. So, do we really want to spend hundreds of billions of dollars and dedicate the life's blood of all our fallen or maimed service personnel to hunt down the last 20 Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan? Oof, 20 needles in a very big haystack. We will, of course, have to make peace with the resistance to our occupation in Afghanistan, and that's perhaps what the puppet regime of Hamid Karzai fears most. Of course, they put it differently. They say they fear abandonment. And the ISAF second-in-command, General James Bucknell, said yesterday, now is not the time to blink. Well, General James, it's not blinking that's the issue. It's withdrawing our forces from a doomed occupation of a vast foreign country at gigantic financial cost and at a cost in blood that cannot be measured. So, should we quit Afghanistan right now? That's what I say. What do you say? 212-209-2900. And Skype has been sold to Microsoft for $8.5 billion. Just 5 years ago, it was worth $2.5 billion, which was remarkable enough because at the time it had never turned in a single dollar's worth of profit. It was invented by 3 Estonian computer engineers 10 or 11 years ago. It was sold by them to the buyer, Skype, and now Microsoft have paid $8.5 billion. It must have experienced a huge leap in profitability in the last 5 years then, no? No. It actually lost $700 million last year. So, who pays $8.5 billion for a $700 million a year loss-making enterprise? Answer, Microsoft. Well, it must be a pretty stupid question, if that's the answer. Just what is it about these internet bubbles that makes them grow so big? Now, I know that football is not your thing over there. Well, not real football. The beautiful game with the round ball and the 11 guys on each side who are not dressed up like the Michelin Man. They're not pumped up with God knows what and protected by all that padding and stuff. At least I assume it's padding. They can't really be that big, these guys. And you don't need to wear a crash helmet and a face guard in real football. Well, in the real football world, there's another bribes scandal, the World Cup. Lord Treesman, who, when I knew him, was David Treesman, a sometime Trotskyite. No, I traduce him. A sometime Maoist, a member of the Communist Party of England, brackets, Marxist-Leninist, one of the doughty few, maybe a gang of 4, Maoists in the entire country. Well, he changed his mind, didn't he? He now sits in an ermine robe in the British House of Lords. But he was, briefly, but gloriously, the head of England's Football Association. And he was leading England's bid to host the World Cup in 4 years' time. Now, David Treesman says that 4 people, and he named them, in the FIFA, the International Federation of Football Associations, 4 people, named people, asked him for money, large sums of money, to vote for the English bid for the World Cup. Oof. Now, I don't know if you noticed or care, but the royal couple have disappeared to the Seychelles. They really are giving the English press the runaround. They got married, then they told them they were going back to work in Anglesey, a small place in Wales, hoping to shake off the media. But they were no sooner in Wales than they flew off to the Seychelles. It was meant to be a secret, but a tourism official in the Seychelles spilled the beans. Well, of course you would, wouldn't you? And Fergie told Oprah that she didn't get to the wedding, but as she put it, neither did Diana. But then Fergie, Diana is dead. Now, Pippa Middleton has become the hottest property in the world. She's the world's most eligible woman. Who's she? She's the younger sister and bridesmaid of the princess, the Duchess, Catherine Middleton, who married Prince William. Such a hit was Pippa at the wedding that she has been inundated with offers of marriage and tremendous financial inducements to, become a model, really. But she's complained to the British Press Council about pics of her at 5 years old on holiday, taking off her bikini top. Well, as you would complain. Now, Pink Floyd have said that they're going to release a horde of unheard tracks. Hold me back. I mean, I know they're politically correct and all, but I think they're the most dirge-like, dismal band that Britain ever produced. So if there are unheard tracks, I'm afraid they'll remain unheard to me. Well, the Schwarzeneggers have split, Arnie and Maria. Will Arnie be back? Does anyone care? What's the story? Jack and Ori. And Cheryl Cole is coming your way on the X Factor USA. Who's she? Well, you'll soon find out. And what do you make of the news that Macau is now 4 times bigger than Vegas for gambling? I never understood gambling. I've never gambled, never been a gambler. Just what's the fun in throwing your money down a drain surrounded by bright and flashing lights? And are you looking forward, as I am, to Woody Allen's Midnight in Paris? The Cannes Film Festival opened today, and Woody Allen's Midnight in Paris is hotly tipped as well it might be. You can call me on 212-209-2900. And don't forget that this is a fundraising drive, and you can pledge to support this show and indeed to support WBAI on 212-209-2950. $25 is the minimum, and for that you get to be a member of WBAI. Now let's see if I've got any calls. Ife, have I anyone on the line?
Actually, yes. You have Francis from the Lower East Side in Manhattan on the line.
Hey,
Francis in the Lower East Side. Nice to talk to you, my friend.
Great. I love your show, and I really appreciate all you do.
Thank you, friend. Thanks.
Okay, so obviously I think that war in Afghanistan, war in Iraq, all those wars are just these huge, horrible mistakes, and we should leave now. I don't have any problem with packing up and leaving now.
That's right. I mean, it's only what they call credibility, Francis. And that's what kept us in Vietnam so long. It's what kept us in the First World War so long. We can't leave because we're here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you know what? I don't even believe anything they say in terms of why they're doing what they're doing. Yeah, the real reasons has to do with the people who are making zillions of dollars selling these drones, and every time a bomb is dropped, you know, like somebody's got some money coming into their bank account.
Sure, no, that's true. But then Obama has to face re-election. Another 70 million people have got to vote for him. And why doesn't he feel the hot breath of the electorate on the back of his neck saying, we want out of this war?
I don't even know who Obama is anymore. You know, I voted for the guy and I had all this hope, but honestly, I can't really see much difference in my life and even where the world is at right now compared to when Bush was president. Guantanamo still, you know, we still torture. We still have no habeas corpus. He's doing all the nuclear power plants. I mean, all the way down the line, he's exactly kind of like what Bush would have done, except if Bush was doing it, we'd be out in the streets protesting. The fact that he's got that sweet little rhetoric that comes out of his mouth that makes us think that, you know, he's doing the best he can. But honestly,
that's a very good call, Francis. I don't really have an answer to it, except if you like to pick you up on a bit of syntax. You said it would be exactly kind of like, and I think therein lies the contradiction. Exactly is not the same as kind of like. And at least I think it's kind of like rather than exactly. And, of course, if the right wing had won the election, we can't know where we'd been by now. But I think there's one thing that we can agree on, isn't there? That if Sarah Palin or Donald Trump win the next election, well, it might be kind of like, but it'll definitely not be exactly like what we've got at the moment, will it?
Yeah, but you know what? There's an old saying in this country. You know what the difference between a Republican and a Democrat is?
Tell me.
Democrats apologize before they slit your throat.
Well, I like to think it's a little greater than that, but you're right and I'm wrong about the Obama term so far. I'll grant you that, Francis. You've got me. Thanks very much for the call, my friend. 212-209-2900 is the number to follow where Francis was on any of my subjects or any of your own. Ife, do we have another?
Yes, you have Donald from Manhattan on the line.
I hope it's not Donald Trump. Is it Donald Trump from Manhattan?
No, Donald, another guy from the Lower East Side, actually.
Very nice to talk to you, Donald.
Hey, how you doing? So
I'm good, thanks.
Listen, you know, I have something very similar to what your previous caller just said. To my mind, you and I both deplore how much money is being spent on the war in Afghanistan. But my attitude is Americans ignore the fact that that is very likely exactly why we are there, that it is costing a huge amount of money. That money does not go into thin air. It goes into pockets. That money is lent to the United States. There's interest paid on it. There's a whole infrastructure which is based on the idea that the United States should be dedicating huge amounts of its revenue to this whole process. And
well, that's true. I mean, expenditure on war is welfare for capitalism, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's a means by which the taxpayer writes a very large check to the military-industrial complex, which partly recycles that money by backing the politicians who spend the money on the weapons in the first place.
Precisely, and what I see is we hear people who are continually aghast at how much it costs, as though we should be doing it for less. No, the whole point is that it costs that much, and that there isn't anything to accomplish by doing it for less. We shouldn't, the stated reasons, as Francis said, the stated reasons why we're there are
well,
like,
I mean,
so
but that's not
broken.
that's not true, Donald, about every war, is it? I mean, the Second World War, to defeat fascism, to stop in its tracks a monolithic, fascistic Nazi juggernaut and free the peoples of Europe who had been subjugated by it, that was an honorable war. My view is that neither Britain nor America has fired an honorable shot since the end of the Second World War in 1945.
Well, and I would agree with that. I would also say in terms of the United States that was a declared war, and that the United States has never declared war again, but has been involved nonstop in military actions all over the world since the Second World War. So we see a whole process where we don't even want the technicality on paper. It's a nuisance, because if you declare war, then there's a point where the war ends, and then you have to, once again, figure out something to spend all that money on. It's much more convenient.
You have to think where you're going to have the next one, yes.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Sure. I mean, George Orwell wrote about this, didn't he, in his great novel 1984, the permanent conflict between Eurasia and East Asia, and the building up of bogeymen, and everyone having to rally for 5 minutes of hate each day. It's a remarkably prescient novel.
And, I was taught when I was in high school that 1984 was a representation of a totalitarian state like communism or these kinds of things, rather than, well, it's basically a sort of an exaggeration of what the reality is right here in this country.
Well, it's an exaggeration, but it's also in touch with the reality. You're right. I mean,
precisely.
I think Orwell intended it to be an attack on communism, but now that communism no longer exists, but these phenomena continue to, double speak, things meaning the opposite of what they are said to mean, and so on, is present now without communism.
Precisely. Just now before you were on BAI, they had Noam Chomsky, and he was talking about doublespeak, basically, where he was saying the term stability as used by the U.S. actually means reflecting our interests or serving our interests. In other words, we had to go to Iraq to stabilize it, or to Afghanistan to stabilize these places, when in fact what we were doing was making sure that everything there would operate according to the economic benefit.
Well, I only slightly paraphrased Donald Rumsfeld last week when I quoted him as saying that it's not our fault that God put America's oil under other people's countries. I mean, it is funny, but you don't know whether to laugh really or cry. And we know what he meant, as with so much of what Donald Rumsfeld said, known knowns and known unknowns and all of that. But that is the mindset, that it's not our fault that God put America's oil under other people's countries.
George,
well, look, it's great talking to you, Donald. Two great calls.
I wanted to say one thing. Thank you for the work you've done with Viva Palestina.
Well, there's a big announcement coming up, Donald, from Viva Palestina pretty soon, and you might want to be a part of it. So watch this space, as I say. You can look me up on Facebook, George Galloway MP. 52,000 people have, and I'm on that most every day, writing and drawing attention to what I'm saying, and you can write back to me, of course. So you can go to George Galloway MP on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter. And, of course, you can get me on radio and on television. You'll get all the details at georgegalloway.com. Let's take one more caller, Ife, before we have a 10-second break. 212-209-2900.
Okay, you have Jose from New York City, right here in Manhattan, I guess.
Yeah.
Jose, welcome to the show, my friend.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good.
All right. Yeah, just some things that you can help maybe respond to and help elucidate on.
Yeah.
after 9/11 tragedy, George Bush had rejected an offer to have Osama tried by an Islamic group back in October of 2001. And I think it came to light last year. The once foreign minister of the Taliban, Wakil Mawakila, I believe, and I'm mispronouncing it, had offered Osama into custody of the Organization of Islamic Conferences, which was held at a secret meeting in Istanbul, October 15, 2001. So there was never any real concern to, quote-unquote, capture Mr. Osama, right? Because I think without the Soviet Union, you had an enemy that the military-industrial complex could get tax dollars for, but that has not been examined in the media.
Well, Jose, I mean, there's obviously something in what you say, but for the benefit of absolute accuracy, I should run through the facts of this matter.
Thank you.
It was an offer by Mullah Omar, the then head of the Taliban administration in Afghanistan, an administration which, by the way, if you remember from Fahrenheit 9/11, Michael Moore's great epic, was on such good terms with the United States that it sent a very exotic-looking delegation to the state of Texas, where they were discussing important business opportunities between the United States and the Taliban government. Just a few months prior to that, yes. Now, Mullah Omar said if the United States presented evidence that Osama bin Laden had been involved in the atrocity, I don't call it a tragedy, I call it an atrocity. It was a man-made, gigantic crime that took place in New York on 9/11, that if the United States presented evidence that bin Laden was involved in this crime, that they would hand him over to an Islamic court who would try him. Now, there are a number of caveats that have to be entered here. First of all, Mullah Omar was not in possession of Osama bin Laden at that time and could not necessarily have delivered on that promise. Second, there is absolutely no possibility that any Islamic country would have taken Osama bin Laden and put him on trial, because that would have placed themselves in a very, very exposed position. And thirdly, there probably is no evidence that Osama bin Laden was directly involved in the atrocity in New York on 9/11. That doesn't mean that he was not involved. It means that there's probably no evidence that would have stood up in a court that he was directly involved. So I reprise my oft-stated position on this, Jose, that people motivated by the jihadist mindset of Osama bin Laden, this Salafist, sectarian, extremist, Islamist phenomenon, people motivated by that mindset carried out the crime in New York on 9/11.
And no one talks about...
I don't believe that they were under orders from somebody in a cave in the Tora Bora in Afghanistan. This crime was created in Germany, first of all, and then on the soil of the United States itself. There's no need to or point in bombing a Stone Age country back to the Paleolithic age.
And no one talks
in order to, exert some kind of revenge. Go on.
Yeah, and no one talks about that Osama was an ally through the Pakistani ISI to struggle with the Soviet Union in Afghanistan. So
I can do better than that, Jose. No one talks about the fact that he was an ally of the United States of America in that struggle against the Soviet Union in Afghanistan. Let me tell you what I said to Mrs. Thatcher in the British Parliament on the eve of the fall of Kabul to these Islamist fanatics that were then called freedom fighters. Look at the end of Rambo 3. Rambo 3 was dedicated to the quote-unquote freedom fighters, of whom Osama bin Laden was one of the leaders. Now, I said to Mrs. Thatcher, to her face, in the Parliament, you have opened the gates to the barbarians, and a long, dark night will now descend upon the people of Afghanistan. And
Yeah.
you know, Jose, I never
What'd she
said
say?
a truer word. I never said a truer word. She said they were freedom fighters. That was the considered view of
Did you
both
ask
the
her-
British and the American governments.
Did you ask her about her son's role in Electoral Guinea with the attempted coup through Zimbabwe and South African mercenaries?
I didn't know because she was no longer the Prime Minister by then.
Okay.
However, it's a very good point that you make. Jose, thanks very much.
Take care, guy.
Cheers.
Here he is, comrades. George Galloway and the mother of all talk shows, guaranteed to destroy all weapons of mass deception.
Now remember, we need your pledges if this show, and indeed this station, is to survive and continue. We need your help. $25 minimum. You get to be a member of WBAI, and the number to call to make a pledge is 212-209-2950. You wouldn't want to wake up one fine Wednesday morning and discover not only was there no George Galloway, no mother of all talk shows, but there was no WBAI either. Ife, give me another call, would you?
I am the next call, George. Tony Bates here this morning with you.
Hello, Tony. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing very well. And we're going to get some folks to call in and pledge their support of this fine program on WBAI. That phone number, as George just said, is 212-209-2950. We're doing it a little differently with the mother of all talk shows. We're asking folks to pledge because they believe in the program rather than because we're offering them anything. We want to hear your phone calls coming in. You can pledge at the $100 level. You can pledge at the $25 level, as George said, or you can certainly pledge at the $1,000 level because you appreciate this station and this program. 212-209-2950 is the phone number that you're going to call. We'd like to get 10 of you calling right now with a pledge of $25 to show your support for George Galloway, to show your support for the mother of all talk shows. And George, as I said before and have said previously, I think it's incredibly important that we get programming like yours on the air. The conversation that you're having this morning with our listeners can't be heard in most of mainstream media, nor anywhere else in the New York media for that matter. People rarely, and certainly the media being an arm, the propaganda arm of the U.S. government, do not challenge what the White House says, despite the fact that this story has changed over and over and over, and again yesterday. And the small details, almost nothing that Obama said originally in his press conference, in his announcement, is still considered true. And so who's going to point that out? Who's going to ask that question?
Well, what is remarkable on that, Tony, is just how incompetent all of this has been. Talk about snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Given that they had months to prepare this has turned into a public relations disaster, at least outside of the United States. I can't speak for inside. But outside of the United States, virtually no one in the whole world any longer believes the story that President Obama announced, not least because, as you say, it is now virtually the reverse of what he originally announced. So it's either staggering incompetence or everything is just rather different from what they originally told us. But you're right, no one's going to hear alternative theories and voices unless they keep stations like WBAI going. So it's 212-209-2950. I'm still offering myself for dinner. You can take me for dinner for $1,000 pledge. I'm assuming that no one took us up on it last time, Tony.
They
so
didn't,
next
George,
time I'm in next time I'm in New York, if you want to take me to dinner, then pledge $1,000.
There you go. 212-209-2950. We will accept your MasterCard, your American Express, or your Visa. I hear very good word on the street about this program, George. The listeners are loving the show. The listeners are loving the new look of WBAI and some of the decisions that I've made to bring you, Rick Wolf, Robert Knight, some of the new folks we have on the station. Our listeners have responded, and we're asking them to respond this morning, not just with phone calls, but with their dollars, not just with emails. But it is really, folks, your dollars that make this station go, keeping this this station on the airwaves. It's the only way we do it. You know, if we had commercial sponsors, George wouldn't be able to have the conversation that he has with our listeners each day. If we had commercial sponsors, they wouldn't let us challenge what Obama says. That's why we ask you to support our station. It's the reason we ask you to come to the phone and do your part to keep WBAI an independent analysis, independent thought, and unique angles on the airwaves. That's what we do at WBAI. We ask the tough questions. We ask the questions that the sheeple on CNN and MSNBC and Fox will not ask. They are sheeple, and they're actually shepherds of the sheeple, and they are leading the masses astray. Right here, we do a different job, and that's bringing you some analysis, a little bit of truth that you can't hear anywhere else in your media. 212-209-2950. We need 2 more people to join us now, George. We got several of those phone calls. We need 2 more people to pledge at the $25 level. But certainly this morning, we do expect to get that $1,000 matching pledge. And if you pledge that $1,000 on your MasterCard, American Express, or Visa, then we will send you to dinner with George when next he is in town. 212-209-2950. And George, I'm really grateful that you are here to bring a perspective that is uniquely un-American. But that is very different from the perspectives we hear, even on our own station, because you are in another country and because you have come from a completely different political setting.
Yeah,
we're able to hear from you what we can't hear in our own country. So
well, we are 2 countries divided by a common language, as the great Oscar Wilde once put it.
It's true, but you guys aren't that good with the English over there, I'm telling you.
No, that's a red rag to a bull, let me tell you. But you know that when Oscar arrived at the United States, they asked him if he had anything to declare, and he said, "I have nothing to declare except my genius." And indeed, he was not exaggerating. He was one of the greatest gifts that God ever gave us, the great Oscar Wilde. I'm not Wildian in my rhetoric, but I do my best.
You're not bad.
212-209-2950. That's the pledge line. I can't get on with the show until you satisfy Tony's needs. 212-209-2950. I think he needs just 2 more at the $25 level. That shouldn't be too hard to achieve, at least if anyone's out there listening.
I want 2 at the $100 level this time, George. I want to get people to come and pledge
two times 100,
$100 level.
I personally think 25 is far too little.
I agree.
If people give $100, even $100 a year, that's not even $2 a week. And look what they're getting for that. That's not even the price of a cup of coffee. It's way good value for money, because if it disappears, you know the old Joni Mitchell song, you don't know what you've got till it's gone.
Right.
If we were gone, people would miss us. And so the point is, we are still here. But of course, we can only continue to be here if you pledge. So give me 2 more at $100.
Song. Never mind.
No, don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone. Big Yellow Taxi. Joni Mitchell is one of the greatest artists. Canadian, I think, living in the United States.
Is she Canadian?
And her album Blue, she is Canadian. Her album Blue repays listening even now, more than 30 years, in fact.
Well, we got one of those phone calls. We want to get one more. Excuse me, George. 212-209-2950. We're going to go to your calls again. We're going to take a couple more phone callers after we get that final phone call. But, yeah, I do know that song, but I didn't realize that she was Canadian. She came out to the station in Los Angeles when I was at KPFK.
Yeah, I think she lives in California, yeah.
Does she now?
I think so,
I had to stop our listeners. I had to stand at the door and be security. So many people showed up to touch her or to be in her presence or whatever the case was, that I had to stand there by the door and ask people to leave the station, and she's that popular. And I guess you don't know what you got till it's gone. All right, folks, now we're going to take a couple more phone calls, 212-209-2950. But the deal is this. While we're listening to your phone calls, we need you to call and make your pledges of support for the mother of all talk shows. We're doing it differently with this program. We're not offering you anything this fund drive. We're asking you to support the station and support this unique program, the mother of all talk shows with George Galloway. Next
there
caller,
are known knowns. There are known unknowns. Garden knowns. But there are also unknown unknowns. Here's one of them. George Galloway with his mother of all talk shows. Didn't we regime change that guy?
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Well, I did say to you that Donald Rumsfeld talked in riddles, but you kind of knew what he meant, and we know what he and the rest of his crew really meant, at least for the world. 212-209-2900 to talk to me. Aoife, do we have anyone?
Yeah, you have Ernest from Irvington, New Jersey on the line.
Ernest and all my friends in New Jersey, good morning to you all.
Good morning, Mr. Galloway. I spent a long time in your country and really enjoy it.
Excellent, good.
My situation is, he who sows the wind should be prepared to reap the whirlwind. And 9/11 is a direct result of the oppression to the Palestinians that America supported. You know, they go around the world killing whoever they want. When they do it, it's terror. When somebody else does it, reacting to what they've done is terrorism. But when they do it, it's for the name of peace.
Well, that's right. Terrorism's what the other fellow does. It's never what you do. After the terrorist atrocity in London on 7/7/2005, when 53 people were killed and hundreds were maimed in a series of train and bus bombings, suicide bombings, I made this very point to Mr. Blair, who was then the Prime Minister. I made it again in public to his face that tearing people to pieces with red-hot, razor-sharp steel and sheets of flying glass and high explosive is a sin in any religion, is a crime in any language. The difference, I said, between me and you is that I believe it's a sin and a crime, whether it's carried out by a man with a turban and a beard in the Tora Bora, or a man in a suit in the White House or in Whitehall. That's the difference between me and you. And I believe still that there is no answer to that. What happened in New York on 9/11 was a vast atrocity, a great sin, a great crime. And there is no, and you never will find me gainsaying that. But as I said in my speech in Parliament just a few days after 9/11, which is worth reading, which won me the Debater of the Decade award, I said then that it was a crime and a sin, but it was not the greatest crime, and it was not the first crime. As a matter of fact, on the date 9/11, the very date 9/11, 1973, the United States, and Henry Kissinger and Richard Nixon in particular, were deeply involved in an even bigger crime, an even bigger sin, in the violent, murderous overthrow of the democratically elected government of Chile, in which the Chilean parliament was set on fire by bombers, and the president, Salvador Allende, was murdered. Murdered in a U.S.-inspired, financed and organized crime, after which tens of thousands of Chileans were tortured and murdered, and hundreds of thousands of them were driven into exile for the next 30 years or so. So, there have been many crimes. There have been many sins. One does not justify the other.
I totally understand this, but America would never be a safe place as long as America supports Israel against the Palestinians.
Well, it's partly Israel, it's partly the foreign occupation of Muslim countries, but mostly it's the Western support for the tyrants who rule the Muslim world, almost without exception, from one end to the other. I mean, we're now having history being rewritten, aren't we? We're now being told that we must make war on Libya in order to protect and defend the revolutions in Egypt and Tunisia. But in fact, the United States and Britain opposed the revolutions in Egypt and Tunisia until the very last second, or in the case of Tunisia, even after the dictator had fled. So some of us cannot be fooled. Some of us cannot have the sand thrown in our eyes so that we become blinded to the truth. Thanks, Ernest, for that call. Ife, do we have another?
Yes, you have Ahmed from Brooklyn on the line with you.
Ahmed, salam alaikum. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, hello, George.
Yes, sir.
George, you are the best.
Thank you, brother.
Okay, George, listen to me. You said about 9/11. Now, John Kerry, the presidential candidate for 2004.
Yes.
John Kerry had mentioned 3 years ago in his commencement speech to University of Texas that building number 7 was demolished, dynamited, and it was shown on Dutch TV. And immediately following that, there was an anthrax attack a few weeks later, which was planned on American Army base. So, can you put these things together? That,
no, I can't put them together, and I don't know if John Kerry, who the last time I looked was not the Oracle, he was not producing tablets of stone carved on Mount Sinai. He's not the author of the Bible. John Kerry is just a man, and I wouldn't read quite as much into any statement made by presidential candidate John Kerry as you evidently do. It's like the comment that keeps being brought up to me about Benazir Bhutto. I never knew that people invested so much trust and belief in every comment that Benazir Bhutto ever made. And I speak as one who was her close personal friend for more than 25 years. So I don't know what happened to Building 7. All I am sure of is this, that George Bush is not responsible, at least directly, for the attack on the Twin Towers in the United States. I believe that attack was carried out by the people who claimed that they carried it out, namely Islamist, fundamentalist, Salafist, jihadist terrorists who boasted in suicide videos about their intentions. 212-209-2900. That's the number to call me, Ife.
Okay, how about the anthrax?
Oh, no. Well, I don't... Look, there was an anthrax attack, which was, I think, tracked down to U.S. citizens. There's a lot of crazy people in the United States. There are children who take automatic weapons into school and kill their teachers and their fellow students. There are thousands of murders every year in the United States, some of them so atrocious that a whole genre of movie making is built upon them. Just yesterday, the state of Mississippi put a man to death using chemicals normally used to put animals to sleep. It's a crazy place, the United States of America, so it didn't surprise me that somebody sent out anthrax. But I wouldn't read any great geopolitical or geostrategic importance into that event. Ife, let's move on. 212-209-2900. Anyone there?
Yeah, Tony's here, and I will be your final caller, George. We're going to have to spend the last portion of this program raising some money to support WBAI. So once again, folks, we're going to ask you to make those phone calls to the volunteers instead of to the phone line. 212-209-2950 is the phone number that you're going to call to make your pledges to WBAI and to support the mother of all talk shows. You know, there are many, George, on most of our programs, we offer folks a gift for calling in and pledging their support, and we may do that on this show for now, but many say, well, we have to move away from that model. We have to support the station because we believe in it. That's what we're trying to do with the mother of all talk shows. We want to hear your pledges of support. We want that money coming in because you believe in the program, because you believe in the host, you believe in his ability to challenge the status quo and to challenge CNN and MSNBC and Fox, that whole alphabet soup of nonsense that you hear on your television every night. 212-209-2950 is the phone number to call. You can pledge at the $100 level to support the mother of all talk shows. You can pledge at the $25 level. We want someone to pledge a $1,000 matching pledge. That person is going to get to go to dinner with Mr. Galloway when next he is here in the U.S. 212-209-2950. 2950. Make those phone calls heard. Call up now. Let your voice be heard and keep George Galloway on these airwaves. We're really very proud around here at WBAI that we can have George Galloway on these airwaves. He is well known around the planet. We have him exclusively on WBAI here in this country, exclusively on the Pacifica Radio Network, and that's how we get it done. This is for you folks. You make it happen, but only with your phone calls, only with your pledges of support are we able to do this way. 212-209-2950. We need to get another 15 callers, George, in this last 15 minutes. In fact, I'd like to get 20 callers, if we can, in this last 15 minutes of the show. 212-209-2950. Mr. Galloway.
Well, you know, the time was that when I was a matinee idol, that people would have been queuing up to pay $1,000 to have dinner with me. I'm mortified that I've now gone 2 whole hours offering myself for $1,000. There must be some rich widow out there who's got $1,000 that would like to be taking me to dinner overlooking Central Park. It would be entirely chaste, entirely proper, but it would be a fun dinner. And you get it for $1,000. 212-209-2950.
I can attest to the fact that it is fun to have a meal with Mr. Galloway.
We did have a very good meal.
Yes,
St. Patrick's Day meal.
Yes, we did. And he is more than witty and more than engaging. Believe me. 212-209-2950. But we want you to call in, folks, and support the program because you believe in it, because you understand the necessity of a voice like George Galloway's, because you understand the need for media to challenge what is coming out of the White House. And George and I differ in the events around Mr. bin Laden's killing. I have no idea. I never believe my White House when they tell me anything. When that government speaks, I have to ask questions. George, I can't accept anything they tell me.
I understand that, Tony. And as I say, the White House version of events is in tatters.
It is.
But I think we should believe bin Laden's sons and his daughters, who saw him being killed.
Are they a part of the Carlyle group? I'm just asking. I'm making jokes.
No, but there are some bin Ladens in that group. And
Yes,
is Bush Sr. still in that group?
I believe that Bush Sr. has been removed from that. I think, it's been a couple of years. I think that they
It is
withdrew.
a remarkable dualism that the bin Laden family are so very close to the top in Saudi Arabia, and the rulers of Saudi Arabia are so very close to the Bush family.
Indeed.
I dare say that the Saudi regime are not as close to President Obama as they were to President Bush. That will be for a number of reasons. But the former ambassador to the United States from Saudi Arabia, Bandar bin Sultan, that means the son of the next in line to the Saudi throne, was so close to the Bushes that he was known as Bandar Bush by George W. Bush. He treated him as a brother, as indeed he was.
Yes, indeed.
Well, they didn't have to worry about money, Tony.
I guess
but we do.
That's right.
We do. 212-209-2950.
And those phones have stopped ringing, George. We've got to change that now.
Oh, my goodness.
212-209-2950. Now is the time to do your part, folks. Vote with your dollars. Speak with your dollars. Keep WBAI going. Support the mother of all talk shows.
Well, there's only 2 conclusions I can come to, Tony. Either nobody's listening to us, or the people who are listening to us are so poor that they can't spare a dime. Buddy, can you spare a dime? Because if you can't, I just can't keep coming here. I've already told you, not only am I working for no wages, I'm actually paying for this telephone call for a whole hour from London to New York. So I'm doing my bit. I'm giving you my breath. I'm giving you my thoughts. I'm paying for the call. I'm working for nothing. And all I'm asking is that you ring the phone, 212-209-2950.
There you go. There's another caller coming in. Thank you so much for that phone call. 212-209-2950. That's right. George does this for free, folks. He is donating his time to WBAI. Indeed, he is paying just a little bit of money to be here on the airwaves with you. And so we're asking you to support that and to support those efforts. And I hear so many good comments, George. People are excited about your program. When I'm out,
I think we've got a lot of international listeners now as well on the internet. I don't know if you're able to check the hits, but all my census tell me, Tony, that this is a show that's growing.
That seems to be the case, and those people can pledge online at WBAI.org. You can also make that $25 pledge, that $100 pledge, that $1,000 pledge at WBAI.org. But for those of you in the New Jersey area, in the Connecticut area, in the Delaware area who hear our voices right here in New York and all 5 of the boroughs, you can call this number, 212-209-2950, and make your pledge. We've gotten 5 of those calls, George. We asked to get 20 people. We've got to get 15 more people on the line before we finish this out. 212-209-2950. We're looking to get 20 more of you by the top of the hour, pledging your support at the $25 level for the mother of all talk shows. Do you believe in the Pacifica mission? Do you believe in free speech radio? Do you believe in the mother of all talk shows? Do you believe that we should have a voice, that the people should have a voice? Do you believe in community radio? If so, now is your time to do your turn. There's one more, George. Now we just need 19 more people to make their pledges of support.
14.
14. I can count. Thank you so much.
Don't
14
exaggerate.
more people.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
It's bad enough.
14 more people. You know, math never was my strong suit.
212-209-2950. Maths was never my strong suit either. But I know that it's not just, to quote Oscar Wilde again, it's not just a question of knowing the value of everything but the price of nothing.
Hello.
You have to know both. You really have to know both the value and the price. And the price to get the value is a donation. So come on, please, 212-209-2950.
That's right. A donation makes this station go. No commercials, folks. No underwriting. We don't take underwriting on this station. We're not going to bombard you with some pharmaceutical company announcement or some large
capitalist messages.
Fast food. Yeah. That nonsense that you see here on the other stations. You can turn left or right on your dial. We're at 99.5, right in the middle of your dial. You can turn left or right. You will hear nothing like this. You will not hear this kind of analysis. You will not hear this kind of programming. That's why you support WBAI, and that's why you support the mother of all talk shows. 212-209-2950. I'm very proud, Mr. Galloway, to have brought you to these airwaves and to have made that decision to put you on the air here in the U.S. It's clear that our audience is listening, and as you say, I believe this program is growing, and both
I feel that, yeah,
both here and internationally, as you say. And for those of you who listen weekly, who appreciate it, who tell me when I see you out at events that you listen to the program, now is the time for you to do your part. 212-209-2950. A $25 pledge is the basic pledge to become a member of WBAI. But if you really believe in this show, let's make that pledge at the $100 level. Or let's make that pledge at the $1,000 level. Hell, we'll send you to dinner or to lunch or to brunch with one Mr. George Galloway. 212-209-2950. We've gotten 2 more of those phone calls, George. There's a third one. That means that we need 11 more of you to make a phone call. We're trying to get 11 more people to pledge to support the mother of all talk shows before the top of this hour. Your call counts. Believe me, every call makes a difference. It's how we keep WBAI going. 212-209-2950. There's another one coming in there, George. That means we need just 10 more people.
10. Yeah, excellent. Well, we can get 10. We've got about 6 minutes, or we've got maybe less than that. Yeah. Well, who's going to be paying who in the Schwarzenegger divorce? I mean, Arnie must be worth a few bob, but the Kennedy girl must be worth a little more.
Well, I heard him somewhere saying that he had a prenup and that he was not paying. So who knows? Wow. Maybe
well,
that's
you see, again, these are people who don't have to worry about money.
That's correct.
But we have to worry about money, or the whole thing, the whole shebang, comes to a shuddering halt. So we really need that 10. We need 10 calls now before I can depart. 212-209-2950. Please, 10 people. Give a donation now.
And
please.
Now 9 people. You know, one of our fundraising, we were trying to think of ways to raise money off the air, George. And one of the things that we considered was running alcohol like the Kennedys did to get a little fortune going for WBAI.
Well, you know, I'm teetotal, so I'd be wholly against that.
Yeah, I know. We decided against it ultimately, but man, that would have been fun for somebody, whoever likes to drive a lot.
Let's run books or truth.
That's right.
Let's run truth through
That's
the
what
blockade.
we run. Exactly.
That's what we need to do. Run the blockade of lies with WBAI. Truth speakers.
212.
And truth seekers.
212-209-2950. There is another caller coming in. Thank you very much. We now need 8 more of you. We have just 6 minutes left in this program. We need 8 more people to come to the phone and to support the mother of all talk shows. We're asking you to support a show that you believe in, folks. We're asking you to support not because we're sending something out to you, but because you tune in and because you appreciate the changes at WBAI, because you appreciate the fact that we are moving forward, onward, and upward. There's another call coming in. Thank you very much. We now need 7 more people to pledge their support to WBAI. 212-209-2950. Do you believe? Believe with me. I believe very much. I hear the good reports about the program. I know that people are listening. I know that we also have that international audience that you're referring to, George. And those of you listening online, please pledge your support at WBAI.org. Every one of you makes a difference. There's another one. Thank you so much. 7 more people now. We just need 7 more of you. Pledge at the $25 level to support this program. Pledge at the $100 level to support this program. Pledge at the $1,000 level to support this program and to keep WBAI going. There's nothing else like it, folks. You know, that's why you're tuned in, because you can't hear what you hear on this station anywhere else in this media market. We're in the #1 media market in the country. That is New York City. That means we have plenty of folks listening, and we ought to be able to get to this goal. And there's another call coming in. Thank you very much for that. That means we need 6 more of you calling in and pledging your support. Before the top of this hour, we have just about 4 minutes left, so that means we got to step it up and get those calls coming. Thank you so much to that person who just called in. 6 more people calling and pledging their support at the $25 level, at the $50 level, at the $100 level for the mother of all talk shows. Mr. Galloway.
Well, if you're one of those 52,000 people who like George Galloway MP on Facebook, then thanks very much. But if you're not, go there now. And let me tell you that in the last month, this is an amazing statistic, in the last month, 2,156,000 people visited that page. And on that page, I tell people every Wednesday to listen up to this show. So they should know that they can donate to you online. But those who are listening on the radio, which in my opinion is always the best way to listen, you need to give 212-209-2950. We've only got about 3 minutes. I'd hate to hang up and know that we didn't get that last 6 calls. I'd really hate it.
We can do
but
it.
I'd hate it more if this fund drive fails and I have to basically depart these shores, like my great-grandmother, the only American woman in history who emigrated to Scotland in the 19th century.
What was she thinking?
Gosh, no. I mean, if you've seen my hometown and you've seen New York, oh, you must say she got on the wrong boat. 212-209-2950. 6 more donations.
We just got one more, George. We're waiting for 5 people now. 5 more people.
More.
We have
Come on,
2
please.
minutes left, folks. We really need to hear from you. Coming up next,
Give me
we're
5
going to have a
calls in
special.
2 minutes, please.
Yeah, we can get those 5 callers. Last 5 callers calling in and pledge
Otherwise,
support.
I'm gonna retire hurt if you can't give me those 5 calls. 212-209-2950. Please phone now and give what you can.
We don't want your feelings hurt. We also do want to support WBAI. There's another. Thank you so much for that phone call.
Excellent.
212-209-2950. 4 more of you now. Just 4 more people in this last couple of minutes calling in. Pledge at the $25 level. Support WBAI. Support free speech radio, folks.
Yeah.
Support this effort. There's another and another. Thank you so much. We just need 2 more of you now. 2 more people calling in and pledge their support to the mother of all talk shows. Be a part of this thing. It's new. It's upgraded. It's WBAI. It's what we are doing here. We're moving forward. You are making that happen. 212-209-2950. We got one more call, George. We're waiting for one person.
One more.
They make us work hard here up to the last minute of the program. Good Lord have mercy. One more of you
Who's
now.
going to be the last call? It's a very distinctive one.
It will
Who's
be
going
a
to get the last
distinctive one.
donation?
Let's have you do that. And we would love for that last donation to be a $100 pledge.
For that apocryphal widow, Tony, let me put on my best dark brown voice that I'm going to come to Manhattan and you can take me for an unforgettable dinner, because we're going to talk about my history, my views, and your attitude to those views. We're going to have a discussion, we're going to have a debate, we're going to look out over Central Park. It's going to be unforgettable, and it's only $1,000 to WBAI, broadcasting from New York to the tri-state area.
And then you can do your show live.
209-2950. Indeed, I'll come and do it live. And we'll do a fundraising gig the night before, and after which I'll disappear with that apocryphal widow and have that dinner.
I'll tell you what, I'm about to pledge at that point. That voice is working.
Tony.
I may put the $1,000 down. 212-209-2950. We have 30 seconds left, folks. Please call in and pledge your support to the mother of all talk shows. Mr.
Do you know
Galloway?
what people like to hear me saying, Tony?
No. Well, you know what? We got about 30 seconds.
The one word they like me saying more than anything else.
What's that?
Is murder. So if you buy dinner with me, I'll say murder. Murder.
I got to say, it's pretty funny when you say it. It is pretty funny, at least for us over here.
I hope you get the last call, Tony, because we're really at the end now of the tether. But it's been marvelous for me, and I hope it was for you.
It's a lot of fun being on the radio with you.
God willing, let's meet again next week at the same time, in the same place.